Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education, a podcast that focuses on what is happening in education today, connecting everyone to the movers and shakers that are breaking boundaries in the education arena.
Welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education. I love when we have students on. We don't have it enough, Jerry. We don't have students on enough, and we really need to do that more because it's important to get insights of the students from around the world, so that we know as educators what we're doing and what we're doing well and what we're not. And I'm really happy to have our guest today because she's hit the keynote circuit quite often at only, 18 years old, I think? Something
17.
like that. 17 years old. So exciting.
Yes, we met Amiya. Well, we've met her twice, Jamie. We met her at the women's tea at ISTE.
Yep.
The first time we met her. And then the second time, she was on the big stage in Orlando, Florida, giving a keynote to, I don't know how many people. Do you know how many people were in the audience, Amiya?
I think they said around 5,000, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh. But I got to see her before that at Nightskate. You got to do Nightskate open up for Adam Fayal there too. So yeah, that was exciting.
Okay. Yes. So Amiya has hit the circuit. She's, Are you a senior in high school this year?
Junior.
A junior. We just keep wanting you to be older.
We are.
Yes. So she's a junior in high school. She's out speaking a lot about innovation in schools. And her at FETC, the keynote was so powerful. I heard so much chatter in the hallway about how powerful it is to hear from our students. And we are guilty of not doing that enough. So welcome to LinkedUp, Breaking Boundaries in Education. We're happy to have you here, and you are so dedicated. You just got out of school for the day, and you came home, and you hopped on a podcast. I just love that.
I'm just so excited to be here. Yeah, this is going to be a real conversation.
Good. We are excited to have you here. Let's start out with what got you excited to be in this kind of innovation ed tech space? How did you get here even?
So when I was in 8th grade, I had a language arts teacher. And when I first went into that classroom, it was a completely different experience because most of the English or language arts classrooms that I'd been in before were the very traditional, you read a book, you write an essay, you take a test, next unit type of thing. But when I got into this 8th grade class, it was a completely different situation. And it was more like a year-long passion project. And I thought that that was so unique. And I was learning so much more already, even in the first few weeks, than I was learning in previous English classes. And we were still doing all of the basic skills. We were still learning how to read and connect everything that we're reading, synthesize it, and create really powerful pieces of writing and presentations based off of it. And so I was already really drawn into that style of teaching. And then that's when she introduced us to AI and how AI could be used in education. And in that particular setup of a classroom, I thought AI was so powerful as a tool because it was something that all of us wanted to use to help us learn more and be really creative and think. And we would just spend classes and classes experimenting with it and having so much fun. And it was just a way of learning that I'd never experienced before. But I think the problem is that after that, when I went into 9th grade and we started going into more of the traditional type of learning classrooms again, I was back into an environment where it was like you learn information and then you regurgitate it on a test. And then in that case, AI can be used as a way of cheating, as kind of like an accomplice to cheating. But in a classroom like my 8th grade class, it could not be used to cheat because the types of assignments were all very personal and everything was based off of our passion. So it's something that we really wanted to do, but we would still learn all of the basic skills. And so that classroom is kind of what motivated me to step into the ed tech world and think about what I could do as a student to make a change and actually help students around the world be in an environment like my 8th grade class.
Yeah, that's terrific. It always starts with one teacher.
It does. And we just actually
give
had
a
a
shout
conversation
out
about
to
that
this
recently.
teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was her name or
Her name,
his name?
Miss Stedronsky, Jill Stedronsky. She's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, well, shout out to her. That is terrific.
Yeah.
So then when
Yeah.
you got into high school and things kind of went back to the way they had been, the traditional type teaching.
Yeah.
So then how did
Yeah.
you keep the momentum up?
So actually, when I was still in 8th grade, I met Miss Alana Winnick, who I know is very big in the ed tech circle. But she and me and another student all together were really passionate about the same things and bringing AI into education in a way that would actually help students. So we kind of all got together and we started this big project and we co-founded this organization that is called Students for Innovation. And so what Students for Innovation is it's kind of like a platform where students can advocate for what they want to see in the classroom. And actually, at first, we were going to call it Students for AI because the three of us were just so passionate about bringing AI into the classroom. But then we were talking and talking, and then we realized that right now, what's really big is AI, and that's what we want to bring into classrooms. But what about 10 years down the line or even 50 years down the line? And it's not really just about what the tool is today, it's about pushing for that innovation and bringing that into the classroom. So we co-founded this organization and we started working really hard to reach out to different teachers and students almost across the country and then eventually even to some places internationally. And so that organization is kind of what kept me tied to this idea of staying in the ed tech world as I went into 9th grade and faced a kind of reversion back to the old traditional classroom. And so as I was doing work on the outside of my school with this organization working with other school districts, I suddenly was like, but I'm not doing anything to change things at my own school. Maybe I should start
Mm.
doing that. And so that started my journey with trying to push back a little bit at my own school. And I ended up going to the vice principal of my grade and talking to her. And at first, there was a little bit of pushback, but eventually, they started being more and more open to AI. And I was able to give professional development to the teachers that actually I had that
You
very year.
professional development?
Yeah, along with my vice principal, and it was such an amazing experience. And I mean, I talk about this a lot, but that one experience, even though it was just one day, that had a big impact on me because a lot of the
Yes.
other work I do is advocating. And with advocating, you know you're making a change, but you don't see that direct impact right away. But with this experience, the very next day, I had teachers that I was in their classes and they would be like, Amiya, look, I'm using what you showed us yesterday and I like pushed this out to all my students today. And it was like direct impact. And I was able to see that what I was doing actually made a clear difference at my own school for students like me and all of my friends. So that was a really big deal to me. And then eventually I was actually invited to this summit at my school with the whole district administrators. And it was like, this summit is to draft an AI policy for our district. And I was able to sit there and talk to the superintendent and be a part of that conversation and actually help decide what went down on that doc. And I think that however small impact I could have had, I think I did make a difference by being there because the final policy that came out of it, I am proud of it because it's so different from the original 9th grade high school that I entered because now we have a policy where there's like a light system and it's not just red, yellow, green. There's multiple in the middle. So it's like for some assignments you can use it and it's really focused on teachers making those decisions on each assignment that the policy for AI is different.
That's
That's
fabulous. That's really, really fabulous. And I love how you saw from the very beginning when you were in your 8th grade class to when you went to 9th grade and you saw the difference and you noticed, what had to happen. And then starting the advocacy group, you recognize that it's about the pedagogy. It's about the instructional best practices that is the foundation. And then as you noticed, it's not just about AI that's making the change, but it's about that foundation of how you teach and then plugging in AI or any other technology tool that is going to help. But the innovation starts with how the teacher is teaching. And you really saw that. And I think that's so wonderful because even when you were able to do the professional development for the staff in your school, they're seeing also maybe the cheating was happening because of how I was teaching and the things, the ways, the old traditional ways that, maybe it wasn't such a meaningful thing that I was teaching them. And instead, if I have something that's more open-ended, more innovative, then it brings about their passion, and that's what's leading it. So it's so great that, I mean, at such a young age, you were impacted by that teacher, and it made such it was so moving for you that you wanted to spread that. And I just think that is so wonderful, so wonderful. When you say you have your advocacy organization that you've established, how are you able to connect globally? You mentioned you were able to do that, widespread. What does that look like? What are you doing with that organization?
So one of the big things that we're doing that's upcoming is that we actually have this annual virtual summit. And the thing that makes it special is that it's led by students and it's for educators. So every single presenter during this week-long summit, every session is fully led by students. And so for this summit, we ask as many students as we can find in a very wide variety of schools to submit proposals, and then we go through them and help them build their presentations. So last year we did the same thing, and we were able to meet with this girl from India, who we had a connection to her teacher, and then we were able to kind of talk to her through that. And then we met her, and we really loved what she had to say about gamified learning. And so we had her present for us. And then this year we're actually working with a student from Egypt, which I think is really cool because he can't even really speak a lot of English on his own. And so I really hope it's going to work out and that he'll be able to present with like subtitles that translate to English. But I think it's just so amazing to see that this whole change in education isn't just something that happens locally or happens even nationally. It's every single school, every student is impacted by this.
Yeah.
And so the connections come as we grow bigger and bigger. We know more teachers who know more teachers, and eventually we get to know all of these amazing students that are doing crazy things around the world. And we just hope that we can build our platform to be bigger and bigger and bring all of these students to speak and share their messages with educators.
It's so wonderful to break down those classroom walls and connect with people from around the world. I mean, Jerry and I used to teach many, many years ago, and it was hard to do that. I did it, but it was with, internet connections that were not strong and just single computer in the classroom. But now we have so much available to us. So it makes it easy. And so I love that you are finding that path because it is so important to be able to connect with people with different perspectives and different purpose. And I love that you are not only doing, but also inspiring them and helping them. That is phenomenal. It is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Amiya, when is the summit? Is it coming up soon or?
Yeah, it is coming up soon. It's in April. It's the week of April 20th to the 24th, and it'll be a few sessions each day. And so if any educators want to be a part of the summit or watch it, you just go to studentsforinnovation.org. Everything is completely free. And if you just put in your email, then you can get access to the Zoom link meetings to join it live. But then there's also going to be recordings posted, and we'll send them directly to the educators' emails.
So what is the schedule for this? So how do you do this around school? But the others around the world are at school. So
it's generally we try to work with the schedule of the student who's presenting, and then one of us on like the leadership team. So me and another student are running the summit this year. And so we are both on the same time zone. So we'll start them around 3 or 4 p.m. after school. And then we go depending on the timings that work for the other student. And so I know last year with the girl from India, we did it on a weekend day because that was the only time that worked for both of us. This year, I think we're trying to get it to work so that we don't do a weekend day because a lot of educators aren't really going to join if it's like a Saturday or Sunday. But we'll probably do later in the night for students that might want to wake up early from across the world and join at that time. So we kind of just figure it out based off of the student.
What have you learned from putting on a virtual summit?
I think it's an amazing experience. My favorite part is meeting the people. Even outside of the ed tech world, even outside of this work I do, I just love to be around people. I love to meet new people. So this particularly, I've learned the most from meeting new people. I mean, I learned things I never would have known without talking to people from halfway across the world or even the student that's at my school who's presenting, I learn things from them. And I think that's the biggest thing for me.
You said students at your school, and I wanted to ask you, how have they responded to some of these changes, especially up there? The teachers had the professional development and were changing things. How did your peers respond?
Yeah, and even there was peers in that same class that made the spark in you from 8th grade. Are some of them seeing the connection? So how does that what is the impact for everyone?
I think it's impacted everyone in a different way. I mean, there's a wide variety of students. Some students who might have been using it to cheat before this change and when it was in a traditional classroom. And then there's students like who I was close with, who we all experimented with it in 8th grade in that classroom. And I think everyone's slowly seeing the impact because obviously it's a very slow transition. Like even today, we don't have a lot of assignments in every class where we have like a higher light colored green, closer to green AI use policy. And it varies a lot. And so I think we've had a few assignments recently, for example, in my AP Lang class, where we've had a closer to like a yellow and green area for the policy. And that was like for the process of writing an essay, we were allowed to use AI to help us brainstorm and to help us with our revision process. And then we were also taught how to cite AI as a source. And I think everyone found that really interesting. And we were also playing around with the feedback and having that metacognition process of responding to the feedback and talking about it. And I think everyone was really excited to learn about what it's like to use AI as a tool to kind of help them become better. And a lot of people hadn't really used it in that kind of way before. It was more like a let me get my answers to homework kind of way, or even let me help myself study, but not in the way of giving yourself feedback on your writing.
Yeah.
Amiya, what are some of your favorite tools that you use for AI?
Like brands, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the ones I've used a lot is School AI.
Yes.
I do like their tool a lot because I feel like it's the perfect balance that you have training wheels as a student is kind of the metaphor I like to use because you're able to use AI in however you want to, but specific to the type of assignment or specific to what the teacher wants to see from you. And then I think the most important part of any tool that's used in school is that the teacher can see the conversation log that you had with the chatbot. Because I think as we're getting more and more into a world that's using AI more, I think that the most important thing is that we assess a student's process of creating the assignment and the thinking process rather than just the product. And how do you assess that process? I think one of the biggest ways when a student is using AI to help them learn and think deeply, one of the biggest ways of assessing that process is by looking at that conversation that the student is having with the chatbot. So whatever tool it may be, that is one of the most important features I think it needs to have. And School AI does a really great job of providing that conversation log. I know Brisk as well, I've played a lot with it. It also does that. So a lot of these tools are getting better and better as time goes on. And I think that's a really good thing for students in today's world.
I like the training wheel analogy because there are some students probably who are kind of nervous to use it too. So this gives them the confidence and the support, but it also allows for that visibility, as you mentioned, for the teachers, so that teachers can be guiding them along the way so that everyone is using it effectively, ethically, and responsibly that way.
Exactly.
So
And like to think about that more, I think the purpose of school is to prepare every student to go out into the real world. And so everything we do in school kind of has those training wheels on them because you're getting guided through it. So that once you graduate, you know how to go into the real world and not drown as soon as you get there because you've had experiences with everything throughout the way. And so learning how to use AI is just like that because once you graduate, you're going to be head first into AI and you're going to have no controls on it. So it's about how do you learn how to use it responsibly while you're in school.
You are so intuitive and I love that. I mean, you just kind of like made these connections as you're talking. But you mentioned the real world. You are a junior right now. Juniors are usually looking for colleges, trying to figure out what they're doing, but you're already in the real world. You're already doing something. So what is your plan? What are you looking to do right now?
Yeah, so that's, I think, one of the most exciting things for me because I love thinking about where everything that I do can take me. So a lot of people think this is interesting because I'm not necessarily going into anything with like humanities specifically, even though a lot of the work with AI has to do with English classes and language arts classes. I really love math and I hope to major in applied math when I get to college. But I think this part of me will always stay with me because I think education is just so, so important to me. And even if it's just like calling my friends the night before a test and helping them and tutoring them with whatever we have to learn, I will always want to be some sort of a teacher. And so I think my final goal has always been to eventually hopefully become a professor because that's like the perfect mix of both doing research and advancing that on my own, but also still always staying grounded with students and being part of that teaching process and giving back to the student community and helping them become even better when they grow older.
I
I think
love
you're well
that.
on your way.
I think
You
you're
are
well
well on
on your way. I
yes.
do. And that
Ha-
actually makes me think too, the higher ed community is struggling with this as well. Um, have you been able to connect with anyone in the higher ed community to help share some of these strategies that you are helping K-12 with?
Yeah, so the other student that I co-founded Students for Innovation with, along with Miss Winnick, he actually graduated and he's now a freshman at Harvard. So I actually met with him a few weeks ago and we just talked about everything. And it's interesting to see how all of the same things that apply to me as a high school student and when I was in middle school, they still carry through to when a student goes to college. And I think it's almost like the same types of advocacy need to also
Sure.
happen in the higher ed community. So that goes on to say, even when I go into college, I'm not going to stop. I mean, there's so many professors that haven't learned and that are still traditionally teaching and that need to know how to adapt their classrooms and the way they teach to the new technology and the way we're progressing. So that's another big thing. I've connected with him as a student, but I think once I get into college, I'll have a lot more connections in the college world. So I can make more of a difference in higher ed then.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's
I'm
just so
sure you'll do
fabulous.
it too.
That's so fabulous. You know, when I was teaching 30 years ago, I ended up getting into ed tech because of the students. This is when in the 90s when the internet was brand new. We called it the World Wide Web. We called it surfing the net, all of those things. But my students were so excited about it. And so it made me want to learn more. And we sort of learned together. And I feel like this is exactly what you are doing for your teachers. And it's such a gift. You're doing this for your teachers. You're doing this for your peers. You're doing this for people from around the world with your excitement and your understanding of how innovation can bring about so many amazing things when it comes to learning. So
I
I
love
just
the
think,
way
yeah,
I love the way that you said that you did it with the students and you learned along with the students because when I think of my grade teacher, Miss Dronsky, that's exactly what she did. She didn't know what she was doing with AI. She learned with us. She had no idea the types of
yeah,
technology that she was giving us to play with because no one really had any idea of like where the limitations of that would go. So she was playing with it with us,
yeah,
playing around with it, and she was learning at the exact same time as us. And I think that helped us build a really strong relationship with her and respect her as a teacher.
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
My
because
gosh.
you don't expect the teacher to know everything.
Yeah.
But
And they
I
model
think
it that way.
it's
Yeah.
refreshing when they say, I don't know
Yeah.
everything. Let's learn it together.
Together.
Amia, I want to ask you a question. Across the country now, there is a big push to not have as much screen time. And I don't know if your school has addressed this. But from a student perspective, what are you thinking about screen time? Do we have enough? Do we need less? What do you think?
I think there definitely needs to be the right balance between using devices that have screens and also staying away from that. Because as the world gets more and more involved in AI and tools that are related to the screen, that means that the most important skills are now soft skills and communication and face to face interactions with people. So I think that while we need to have a certain amount of time focused on building skills with screens so that students are able to be successful in that aspect when they get older. We also need to have even more time than we used to focusing on soft skills. So that doesn't mean going back to writing essays on paper. That means you do things like that with a computer, with screens and tools like that, but then you also spend that other time that you now have on helping students develop those soft skills and working on their communication skills.
Yes. We need to have you out in front of legislators and
Yeah.
at speaking at the national level, because you have such a balanced view.
Yeah.
And I love that that's your view as a student. That's so important.
It is. It is. That's who's guiding us, our students. So, but you are doing it in such a special way. You're so elegant about this. You're so intuitive. Just your concept of pedagogy and relationships in the classroom with teachers and students and students and students is really sophisticated. So you're very, very impressive. And
Yes.
it makes me feel very confident in our future with a student like you.
Thank you.
What's next for you?
Well, I mean, now I'm kind of getting into the college application process,
Yes.
and I know it's
That's
gonna
a
be,
lot, isn't it?
yeah, it definitely is.
Yes.
Well, I hope to continue with my goals, working with education at the same time, as well as advancing my own education in whatever field I want to go into, and then hopefully finding a way to wind them back together by the end. So that's my
Yeah. Oh, that is terrific. What do you wish more students knew about AI? If you could tell other students that are kind of scared of it or don't know if they want to use it, what do you wish they knew?
I wish they knew that no matter what, like every teacher's goal is to help them and guide them through their education. So no matter what, they have the ability to push back a little bit against their teachers in a respectful way and fight for what they want to see in the classroom, because every teacher is going to have that perspective and look at their students in a way of how can I help you? And so if a student is afraid of AI, they should spend the time to experiment with it and play around with how it could make them a better student and a better thinker, and then go and actually have a conversation with their teacher about it. Like everything should be respectful, but at the same time, every teacher will listen. And if you give that conversation in the right way, if you start talking in a very respectful, positive way, there will be an outcome that's positive.
Yes. Very true.
Love it. Love it.
Wow. So impressive.
Very,
It,
very.
Yeah.
I can't wait to look at your conference that's online. And so we would go to studentsforinnovation.org. And how do you advertise it? How do you get it out there for more people to get involved?
I mean, everywhere I speak, everyone I speak to, I automatically talk about it. And
Yes.
I think that passion also transfers every time I have a conversation with someone new. Even when we were at the conferences, every time, even if it was just like at a table, walking in the hallways, just meeting somebody and asking them about what they do, and then introducing them to Students for Innovation. Because even if somebody isn't an educator themselves, they will know an educator, they know students, and
Right.
every single person that you talk to and that you spread this to makes the entire movement bigger. And that's our goal.
I have one more question about that
Mhm.
virtual conference. What ages are involved in this?
It is the widest age range that you can imagine. We have second
Excellent.
graders, we have third graders speaking, and it's just amazing to see how eloquently they can put all their thoughts together as a second grader. And then we have juniors and seniors. So it's
Sure.
it's the entire range of students. And I mean, anyone who was at FETC saw Miss Winnick's students, the younger
Yes.
ones, and you just get blown away. I mean, these students are
Absolutely.
so passionate, are so confident at such a young age. And I think that speaks volumes too, because that just shows how important this is and how important it is to listen to every student, no matter how old they are or how experienced they are or anything.
Absolutely. This is great. And I know Jamie and I will promote this on social media too. I would like to see as many people get involved in this as possible, because I think it has the potential to make huge changes.
Thank you. I really
Especially
appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely.
looking forward to it.
Yes, well, we have loved having you here on the show, and you've been so articulate, and just your message is so positive and forward thinking. In all of this work, we like to ask people this question: what's become clear to you in all the work you've done, working with teachers globally, being on a stage? What's become clear?
I think if you have a message that's worth sharing, everyone is going to listen to it and you're going to make an impact. But even if it feels like you aren't getting anywhere at the start, you just have to keep pushing and keep trying, and that message will get across and an impact will be made.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Perfect. Self-advocacy. I love it.
Yes. Thank you so much. And will you tell Miss Winnick hello from us?
Yes, tell her hello.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and taking your precious after school time to be with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And if you would like to stay linked up, be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube.